You're sitting at Christmas dinner with your family. The smell of roasted turkey fills the room. Candles glow against silver plates. Everyone's laughing, sharing stories when suddenly, your mother looks across the table, smiles softly, and says 5 words that shatter everything. You're not on the wheel anymore. The room goes silent. Your fork freezes mid-air. And in that moment, you realize this isn't just about money. This is about something far deeper. This story began in December 2022, in a quiet town in Minnesota. It wasn't supposed to be extraordinary, just another Christmas. 3 generations under one roof. Traditions being honored, old wounds carefully hidden beneath polite conversation. But what happened that night would become one of the most discussed family stories on the internet. Within 72 hours, over 20,000 people would share their opinions. Strangers would debate whether this was an act of revenge, justice, or heartbreak. The story appeared on Reddit in a confession post that started with these words: at Christmas dinner, my mom disowned me over the will, so I gave her a gift she'll never forget. The man who wrote it called himself Eli, and what he did next would force millions of people to ask themselves one question: what would you do if the person who raised you looked you in the eye and erased you from their future? Let me take you back to December 23rd, 2022. Eli was 34 years old. He worked as a teacher in Minneapolis. He wasn't wealthy, but he was careful with money. For the past 6 months, he had been working on something special. A Christmas gift for his mother. His mother, Patricia, was 62. She had remarried 5 years earlier to a man named Richard. Eli had a complicated relationship with his stepfather, not hostile, but distant. The kind of distance that grows when someone new enters a family and quietly shifts the dynamics. Eli's biological father had passed away when Eli was 19. Before he died, he left Eli a small piece of land, just 2 acres on the edge of town. Nothing grand, but it was still in Eli's name. A quiet inheritance from a quiet man. That December, Eli arrived at his mother's house on Christmas Eve. He brought with him a carefully wrapped box. Inside wasn't jewelry or electronics. It was something far more personal. Years earlier, his mother had lost a storage unit to foreclosure. Inside the unit were old family photos, letters she'd written as a young woman, journals from when Eli was a child. She had cried about losing them, talked about them for years. Eli had spent 6 months tracking them down. He contacted the storage company, paid old fees, recovered the boxes, and carefully restored every damaged photo. He scanned letters. He preserved journals. It was hundreds of hours of work, all to give his mother back a piece of her past she thought was gone forever. He couldn't wait to see her reaction. Christmas Eve passed without incident. There was laughter. There were carols. Eli's mother hugged him when he arrived, told him she was proud of him, asked about his students. But Eli noticed something. Richard, his stepfather, seemed tense. He kept glancing at Patricia. She kept glancing back. It was the kind of silent communication that happens between couples when they're holding on to a secret. Eli brushed it off. Maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe they were stressed about hosting. He didn't think much of it until Christmas dinner. Dinner began normally. Turkey, mashed potatoes, the usual small talk. About halfway through the meal, as Eli reached across the table to refill his mother's wine glass, she cleared her throat. Eli, she said, her voice calm, almost cheerful. Richard and I need to tell you something. Eli looked up. He thought maybe they were announcing a trip, maybe a new house. His mother was smiling, but it wasn't the kind of smile that reaches the eyes. We've updated our will, she said. We met with the lawyer 2 weeks ago. Eli nodded, waiting for her to continue. And we've decided, she said, still smiling, that you're not on it anymore. The words hung in the air like smoke. Eli later wrote that he felt his chest tighten. His face went hot, but he didn't react. Not immediately. He set the wine bottle down carefully. He looked at his mother, then at Richard, who was staring at his plate. Can I ask why? Eli said quietly. His mother's smile faded slightly. Richard and I have talked about it. We want to make sure his children are taken care of. And honestly, Eli, you've always been fine on your own. You don't need us. It wasn't cruel. That was the strange part. She said it matter-of-factly, like she was commenting on the weather. Eli sat there for a moment, processing. His mind raced. His stepfather's kids, 2 adults in their 40s, both financially stable, were now the beneficiaries of his mother's estate. The house Eli grew up in, the savings his father had contributed to, the life insurance, everything. And Eli, he was fine on his own. He took a breath, and then he did something unexpected. He smiled. "That's okay," Eli said. "I understand." His mother looked relieved. Richard finally looked up from his plate. "Actually," Eli continued, "I have something for you too." He reached under his chair and pulled out the wrapped gift. He placed it on the table in front of his mother. She looked surprised. "Eli, you didn't have to open it," he said. She unwrapped it carefully. Inside the box were the restored photos, the letters, the journals. Her eyes filled with tears immediately. "Eli," she whispered, "how did you?" "I spent 6 months finding them," he said. "I wanted you to have them back." She was crying now, holding the photos against her chest. Richard reached over to look. Other family members at the table leaned in, murmuring, and then Eli pulled out an envelope from his jacket pocket. "There's one more thing," Eli said. He placed the envelope on the table. His mother, still wiping tears, looked at it curiously. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it," Eli said. His voice steady, she opened the envelope. Inside was a legal document. Her eyes scanned it. Her face changed. "This is," she started. "A property transfer," Eli finished. "The 2 acres Dad left me. I'm donating it to charity. Community food project. They're going to build a garden, kitchen. They'll feed families who can't afford Christmas dinners." His mother stared at him, confused. "I don't understand," she said. "Why would you? You took me out of the will," Eli said calmly. "So I'm taking myself out of your house, out of your plans, out of your future. If I don't need you, then you don't need anything from me either. Consider us even." The table went completely silent. Richard's face turned red. Eli's mother opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Eli, that's not," she started. But Eli stood up. He put on his coat. He looked at his mother one last time. "Merry Christmas, Mom," he said, and he walked out. No narration, visual moment, no narration. Transition moment, visual montage with music. Only Eli drove home that night in complete silence. He didn't cry. He didn't call anyone. He just sat in his apartment, staring at the wall, wondering if he'd made a terrible mistake. 2 days later, on December 27th, he posted the story on Reddit. He titled it, "At Christmas dinner, my mom disowned me over the will, so I gave her a gift she'll never forget." He didn't expect it to blow up. He just needed to tell someone. Anyone. He needed to know if what he felt, this strange mix of anger and sadness and relief, was justified. Within 24 hours, the post had 15,000 comments. Within 72 hours, it had been shared across Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Strangers were debating it. Some called him a hero. Others called him petty. Some said he was heartbroken. Others said he was vengeful. But the comments that struck Eli the most were the ones that said, "I've been there. I know exactly how you feel." Meanwhile, Eli's phone wouldn't stop ringing. His mother called 47 times in 3 days. She left voicemails. She sent texts. She showed up at his apartment once. But he didn't answer the door. Richard sent an email, calling Eli ungrateful and manipulative. He accused Eli of ruining Christmas, of hurting his mother, of being selfish. But Eli didn't respond. He had said everything he needed to say at that dinner table. By January, journalists began reaching out. Insider, BuzzFeed, local Minnesota news stations. They wanted to verify the story. Eli provided proof, screenshots of the will documentation, property transfer records. Even the receipt from the storage unit recovery. A local nonprofit confirmed they had received the land donation. They released a statement thanking an anonymous donor and announcing plans for a community garden project. They had no idea they were at the center of a viral story. And Eli's mother? She eventually stopped calling. In February, through a family friend, she sent a message. "I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd care that much." But here's what stayed with Eli and what stayed with millions of people who read his story. It was never about the money. It was never about the property. It was about being seen, being valued, being told in the clearest possible terms that you matter. And when his mother took him off that will, she wasn't just removing him from a legal document. She was removing him from her future, from her priorities, from the story of her life. So Eli did the same. Transition moment with music family psychologists who reviewed this case noted something important. Sudden changes to a will often represent much more than financial decisions. They're symbolic acts when a parent removes a child from their will, especially without warning, especially over a holiday dinner. It sends a message. And that message is rarely just about money. Dr. Anna Fields, a family therapist who has studied inheritance conflicts, said something that stuck with me. A will is like a mirror. It reflects not just your assets, but the final shape of love, resentment, and priority within a family. And once that mirror breaks, even if you glue it back together, the cracks remain visible. From a legal perspective, what Eli's mother did was entirely permissible. In most US states, parents have no obligation to leave anything to their adult children. The law protects that right, but legality and morality aren't always the same thing. In the end, what we inherit isn't money. It's not property or possessions. It's memory. It's the weight of being seen or unseen. It's the moment someone looks at you across a table and tells you, without saying it directly, whether you were ever truly part of their story. Eli didn't need his mother's house. He didn't need her money. He needed her to see him. And when she didn't, he made sure she'd never forget the moment she looked away. If this story made you think, our next video, The Letter That Arrived 10 Years Too Late, explores another family's reckoning with silence, time, and the things we leave unsaid. Subscribe for more verified human stories that stay with you long after they end.